Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne Sportsnet production, available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Steve Austin Show. I'm coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I am sitting here in my office at 316 Gimmick Street. Clock on my desk says 10 minutes after 4 o'clock. I've been sitting here for about 30 or 45 minutes just talking my ass off, doing open, doing a close, telling stories, and doing all my reads, and I get everything recorded, and I hear a voice from down the hall, and the voice is the voice of my wife, Kristen. She says, "You were cussing a lot. Isn't it supposed to be a family-friendly podcast on Tuesday?" And I said, "Yeah, it is a family-friendly show on Tuesday." I said, "Was I cussing that much?" And she said, "Yes, you were." So I pushed the play button back on the open of the show, and I realized that I was talking like it was an Unleashed podcast. I used about every single four-letter word I knew and invented a couple others in the process, telling a story about my new car. Yeah, that's right, I got a new car. I got a new 2003 Ford Focus. Now, let me see if I can retell this illustrious story and take a little bit of the salt and pepper out of my damn story. So, I've already said ass and I've already said damn, so let's keep those to a minimum from here on forward. And you know how I do these family-friendly podcasts. Every now and then one of those kind of words is acceptable, but I got to stay away from some of the words that I used in my earlier description. Maybe I'll play that for another Unleashed podcast down the road, because I was a little frustrated with my new car that I just got. Here's the story. I'm going to tell you a story about a man named Jed. Poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. All right, I'm just kidding you. That ain't the story. Hey, man, check it out. My mother-in-law, Kristen's mother, she's got a 2003 Ford Focus. She bought this car when it was brand new off the showroom floor. First new car she'd ever bought in her entire life. The car's only got 64,500 miles on it. And she calls Kristen. She goes, "You know what? I think I'm going to sell my car." And Kristen tells me this, and, you know, me being a car fanatic that I am, I don't really need another car, in particular a 2003 Ford Focus, but I'd driven this car a few times, and it's a pretty fun car to drive. It's just automatic console shifter. It's got the 2.3-liter four-cylinder motor, low mileage. If it's a 13-year-old car, it only has 64,500 miles on it. That comes out to a little bit less than 5,000 miles a year. And, of course, her mother maintained the car with meticulous detail and precision. Always had the oil change every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. Anytime something went wrong, she'd take it to the dealership to make sure it was fixed by the Ford protocol, the blue oval representing there. So it was like a little cherry. I figured, man, maybe I'll buy this car for my mother-in-law, because I got on the Kelley Blue Book and established a value between retail and trade-in based on the miles, based on the way the car was equipped. So I said, I was looking at the value of the car. What do you think about X amount of dollars as an offer? So she thought about it, and she says, "Steve, that sounds like a good number. I'll take it." And just so you know that I'm fair and square, it was indeed a good offer based on the retail side and based on the trade-in side. So I was very happy, and she was very happy. And the thing about it is, I'm saving her from a bunch of damn people, probably some really, really nice salt of the earth people and some crackpot people coming over there. They got to test drive the car, kick the tires, look under the hood. You know, that way Kristen's mom ain't got to sit out there and supervise all this. I mean, she's 78 years old. She's doing fine, but she doesn't need to be going through all the headaches, hassles, and horse feathers of trying to sell a used car. You know how much of a pain in the ass that is. You get phone calls or emails from all hours of the day, And I just figured, you know what? Me being a global icon and a national treasure, it'd be neat to buy this car from her. We could use, we don't need an extra car, but we'll talk about that in a few weeks and find out what I'm actually do with the car. But this way, she doesn't have to go through all the hassles of getting rid of a damn used car. So anyway, we go down there and we just go for a visit. We spend the day over there and have fun and do a couple of things around the house, help her with a couple of projects. And then we sit down at a table, and man, she's ready to go. She's organized, just like my wife. And she's got the title of the car. We signed it all over. My wife had transferred the money from our bank into her bank account. And all of a sudden, I was the brand new owner of a 2003 Ford Focus in premier condition. It was time to ride off into the sunset, so I got in my little Ford Focus, got on the highway, the 405, and headed back down to Marina Del Rey. Man, I tell you what, that little car will haul ass. I was driving 80, 85 sometimes. A damn Lamborghini and a Ferrari came up beside me, and I said, all right, let me show these guys what's up. All right, I'm kidding you. The Lamborghini and the Ferrari did come by, but I wasn't going to try to show them what's up. And a lot of respect for the little 2.3 four-cylinder motor in the Ford Focus, but not quite in that ballpark. So anyway, they zoomed off, and I'm doing my thing. I'm having a blast, man. Little car's fun to drive. It's just a little bit different than what I've been driving, and get back to the house, and everything is just fine. And while I'm driving, you know, the car is extremely clean. The paint is perfect. It looks brand new. If you didn't know it was a 2003, you'd think it was a newer car. And there's a little bit of a dog smell in there just because she used that car to drive her Cocker Spaniel around just like we do with all of our Labradors. So I figured, man, I got my new car here. I'm all proud of it. Had the radio jamming on the way home. I said, you know what I'm going to do? This thing looks so new. I'm going to go have it completely detailed, have the interior shampooed, have everything wiped off. I'd already vacuumed it out. And so I was going to get it done by a professional. And when I got it back here to the house, I popped the trunk when I was going to vacuum it out. And man, lo and behold, it's like that movie Pulp Fiction when they opened up that briefcase and it just shined gold and you're wondering what's in there. I popped the trunk on that sedan Ford Focus. It's the four-door model. And there they were. A 20-foot set of heavy-gauge jumper cables. My mother-in-law, I don't know if she listens to the Steve Austin show, but I didn't see a 4-in-1 screwdriver. I didn't see a pocket knife, but it made my heart swell up with pride that my mother-in-law had a badass set of jumper cables, and they conveyed with the sale of the automobile. Swig of beer for my mother-in-law. She threw the jumper cables in with the 2003 Ford Focus. Anyway, back to the story. Next day, I hook it up. I'm going to go get that thing detailed, get it shined up, washed, waxed, and buffed. I give that guy several hours to accomplish the task at hand. I roll up, and it looks even newer than it used to look. And I get the keys, I pay the man, and he goes, there's something wrong with the motor. I don't take it off the lot. It stayed here, but there's something wrong with the motor. It's running rough. I said, dude, I just bought this thing yesterday from my mother-in-law. It's only got 64,500 miles on it, and it ran like a champ. I was trying to keep up with a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. It ran just fine. He goes, well, I'm just telling you, it runs kind of rough. I said, let me start it up. I reach in there, started up the little car, a little four-cylinder, 2.3 liters, started right up, running like a top. I put my foot on the gas pedal, revved it up. I said, see, man, it's fine. Anyway, he goes, okay. He goes about his business to start buffing on a new car. I get in the Ford Focus, put it in drive, go around the corner, get about 100 yards down the road, and bam, it starts clunking. The damn motor check engine light comes on, and this thing's motor's flopping around in there. It's clunking up down the road. I'm thinking, man, what in the flying blue blaze hell is wrong with my new 2003 Ford Focus with 64,500 miles? What could have possibly happened? Anyway, I'm distraught. I just paid what I thought was a fair price for the car. Gave, Chris's mom a hell of a deal, and she gave me a good deal. We're both happy, but I don't want to spend any more money than I've already got spent in this car. You can look on the Kelley Blue Book and look at 2003 Ford Focus 4-door with air-conditioned AM, FM, CD player, air-conditioned power windows, 2.3 motor, and see what the car is worth. So I don't want to put no more money into it because I got a good deal. And I don't want to put any more money into it because I really don't need another car. So I called the Ford dealership down there in Santa Monica. I get an appointment to take the thing in. These days when you get a car and it breaks down, you got to set an appointment. Back in the old days, you just drive in and say, hey, man, my car is broken. They start fixing it. So anyway, I go down to Santa Monica. I see the service center. I pull in, turn the car off, and get out and go find the office. Well, it turns out that I'd pulled into the wrong service center. So I said, oh, no worries. Let me go get in the car. I'll start it up and bring it over there. So I get back in the car, turn the key, start the car up, and nothing happens. I say, well, no, this ain't a good sign because the car has started every single time I've ever tried to start it. I turned the key again, and sure enough, the same thing happened. Nothing. So I'm thinking to myself, now look at this. I done drove this car 50 miles. It ran like a champ. Now the motor's clunking. The check engine light's on. Now it won't even start. Did I get a damn lemon from my mother-in-law? I go back over to the dude where I'm supposed to take the car to, and I said, this thing won't even start now. So he brings one of those little gimmick battery chargers, the kind I got 3 of. It's about twice the size of an iPhone. I pop the hood. He puts the damn clamps on there. I get in, turn the key, motor starts right up. Check engine light's still on. I pull around to the correct garage and give him a list of things to check. Sure enough, my wife followed me over there. I get in the car with her, and then he says, hey, man, I'll call you in a couple of hours when I get a chance to look at this car. And I said, all right, man, no problem. So sure enough, my phone rings, and it's a whole litany of things that's going on with this car. One, I believe when the guy was detailing the car, it got a little water inside the coil, and that might have been one of the reasons it was running a little bit rough. So anyway, they was going to just dry that off or maybe even put a new coil on it. But the coil was fine, I think, for the most part. Put some new plugs in it. It did need a new battery because that's the reason it wouldn't start up. I had enough charges a few times I used it, but it needed a new battery. Hadn't had one in I don't know how long. I told him to check the brakes because the brakes are squeaking when you try to come to a stop. That's always embarrassing. I don't care if you're driving a 2003 Ford Focus, a 95 Ford Bronco, a red Ferrari, or a yellow Lamborghini. It don't matter how cool your car is. When you got squeaky brakes, you look like a jabroni. So I said, you got to address the brakes. I said, I'm a global icon and a national treasure. I can't be seen in my metallic P Ford Focus with squeaky brakes. So address the brakes. Turns out, gets a phone call, and he says something about the engine mounts and the transmission mounts have worn down after 64,000 miles of driving, and those might need to be replaced because, indeed, when I put it into drive or put it into reverse, there is a little bit of a buck that's going on there. So I took his word for that. And I'm telling you, now I got a square deal on this car, but now I got a repair job going on. I don't know what the brakes are going to cost me. That shouldn't be anything major because she'd already had the brakes replaced. But damn it, man, I thought I was trying to help a sister out, and I did. But now I got to address some issues with this damn used car. And I can't have a car. No one can have a car that's not going to be dependable. If Kristen gets in there, the thing about this car is it's so low to the ground, little 4-door, it will be easy to put Shona and the other dogs into this car because they're not jumping into a very tall SUV. They'll be jumping into the little side there. It's easy transportation for the dogs. And with my damn shoulder and my arm being basically useless still, it's hard for me to load those damn dogs up myself. So I can't have this car breaking down in the middle of Los Angeles or the middle of anywhere. No one wants a car that you can't depend on. And those little motors, those little Z-Tech motors, whatever they are, that's just like the 5.8 liter I got in my Ford Bronco out there. Those damn things will last forever. So I just get these first cursory things taken care of, and I'm hoping that by the time I get back from Phoenix, Man, that's almost a song. By the time I get to Phoenix, she'll be rising. Glenn Campbell, ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Campbell. But by the time I get back from Phoenix talking to AJ Styles on the podcast, hopefully they're going to have all my Ford Focus issues resolved. My car gets a clean bill of health, and I can ride off into the sunset in my metallic P Ford Focus, trying to help a sister out. Hey, if you see me zooming around the streets of Los Angeles in my Ford Focus, feel free to say hello and give me the thumbs up for driving such a badass ride. Hey, man, my guest today on today's podcast is Vince Russo. Y'all remember my conversation with Vince last Thursday. We were on the Unleashed show. Well, it turns out organically we just kind of stopped cussing and we just started just talking about the business of wrestling. So I figured with me having to go to Phoenix, I'll go ahead and drop this Vince Russo podcast on the family-friendly side, and y'all can listen to that. And because I've got Bill Goldberg coming up on the Thursday podcast in the middle of the week, I went down to San Diego and had a hell of a time hanging with Bill, and appreciate all the hospitality and the generosity that the Goldberg family showed me over at the compound. Treated me like royalty, and we had a blast and laughed our asses off. So Vince Russo's my guest today. It's a continuation of the podcast we started last week, and Bill Goldberg comes up next Thursday. But anyway, before we get back into the body of this podcast and get into Vince Russo, I want to say a quick word of thanks for you guys supporting Steve Austin Show and all the great sponsors. And to show my appreciation, I have worked out a special deal with our friends at Dollar Shave Club, and I've arranged for them to give new members a month of the Executive Razor for free just for buying a tube of Dr. Carver's shave butter. Swig of water for Dollar Shave Club. So now there's no excuse not to join the millions of others who've joined the club. DollarShaveClub.com/Steve delivers amazing razors right to your front door for about a third of the price of what those greedy razor corporations charge. That means when you become a member of DollarShaveClub.com/Steve, you can afford to shave with a fresh blade anytime you want. And we all know how great it feels to shave with a fresh blade. I've got the executive blade, and when you pair it with Dr. Carver's shave butter, it's about the smoothest shave money can buy, and that's without breaking your wallet. And Dr. Carver's shave butter ain't your average shave cream. It's a unique formula made with natural ingredients that will leave your skin feeling soft and smooth. So join DollarShaveClub.com/Steve now. And new members who buy a tube of Dr. Carver's shave butter get a month of the executive razor for free. Take advantage of this special offer today. Go to DollarShaveClub.com/Steve. That's DollarShaveClub.com/Steve. All right, let's get back to my conversation with Vince Russo. Do you think the writers are writing for themselves?
Steve, let's analyze this. See, I don't know. I don't want to get you in any trouble. I don't want to pull you in any troubles.
No, did you? This is the podcast. This is a show where I discuss things and you have an opinion, so I'm down with hearing it.
Bro, here's what's happening now, and it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. You have all these writers, and Steve, let me tell you something. I was a fan for a lot of years before I got hired by the WWE. Once I got in the WWE, Vince took me step by step until I was ready to become a part of writing Raw. Okay, I went through a freaking education. These people, 23, 24 years old, wherever they're coming from, okay, all of a sudden they're writing wrestling, okay? It is clear, bro, they don't understand the job of an authority figure. The job of an authority figure is to get the talent over. That the stronger you make them, the more. That's wrestling 101, bro. If I got to tell you this, you should not be working there.
If it's all about the in-ring product and in that respect, ratings, Vince, in writing his show, the writers, under the guidance of Vince, should be instructed that we're trying to get over the talent that we're asking to go out on the road in the ring to draw money and draw ratings on the house. So I think that is Vince's call because he is at the top of the food chain. He is the one leading that company. So he's got to make a decision of, hey, who are we trying to get over? Why are we trying to get him over? Going back to your point, Vince McMahon's character, first of all, people were invested in it. He was tremendous at it. He had tremendous depth. But he always got the talent over, or he would get heat on that talent, and then the talent would get the payback down the road and fulfill the greater goal, which was to get that talent over in the big picture. You've got little pictures and you've got big pictures. Both exist at the same time. Keep your eye on the small picture, an episode of Raw, but look at the big picture where you want that talent to main event the next pay-per-view 3 months down the road. I don't think that's being done.
And Steve, I agree with that. It all, I say it all the time. It starts and ends from the top. It is Vince. But Steve, I always said this, bro. I mean, Vince basically replaced me with Stephanie McMahon. And I got to tell you, bro, trace the history, go all the way back. And to put her in a role of head of creative, his own daughter and his own flesh and blood. Bro, I said this 14 years ago when it happened. I said, this is the biggest mistake that Vince McMahon will ever make, because this is his daughter. This is daddy's little girl. He's always going to look at her subjectively. He's never going to leave egg on her face. Putting her in this pivotal role is the biggest mistake he's made, because whether she was good at it or not, he was never going to be able to replace her. I mean, Steve, let's face it. Over the past 14 years, with the ratings the way they've been and the drop-off in audience, bro, that Stephanie McMahon role, that person would have been replaced 6 times over. Vince is not going to do that because it's his daughter, and that supersedes everything. And I think that's one of the greatest business mistakes that Vince McMahon ever made. That's just my opinion.
WWE is a team, is it not? It's a company, but it's a team, and the goal of this team is to make as much money as possible, do the highest television ratings, put the most people in the seats that they can, blah, 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 to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then so many of the guys, there's a disconnect in that locker room. I was talking to a WWE talent the other day, and they'd never met with Vince McMahon, and this is going to be their first meeting with him, and they were nervous about it. And so if I was scared to have a conversation with Vince, or to question one of the decisions that he was making, or the direction we were going, or question you, as you were tied very, very close to Vince, communication back and forth, there has to be that. And to me, there's so much, or seems to be, guys placing in boxes would lead to some dissension, or, not the greatest morale in the world, because you're stuck in a box. You're never going to get out of that box. Here's your place on the card. That's where you're supposed to be, because we have X, and X who we're shoving right now, and so nobody else has a choice. At some point, you have to develop a relationship with the old man and ask, where you're at, what's going on, why are we going this route? Question why. I think they ought to hold a meeting with all the talent and put Vince up there, and so that everybody can ask questions. I don't want to say air their grievances or their disenchantments with where the company is going, but question why and where the company is going and the process they're in. And so that everybody's on the same page. And so,
Steve, is it fair to say, and I'm going to ask you this question as a talent, is it fair to say that during your run, you felt that was the environment at the WWE?
What I feel, what was the environment of WWE?
That it was open, that we could communicate, that everybody talked, that nobody was afraid to go to Vince. I mean, do you feel that that's how it was back then?
Vince was way more accessible back then, just because he was hands on, he was hands in, he was in the show, and man, you had like you said, the guys were working just as hard in the ring as we were back in the day, but everybody, if you want to talk to Vince, you could. And I know he's not quite as available as he is now. He's wearing so many hats and doing so many different things. But I remember one time, and I can't remember what the meeting was actually about, but it was an open table thing where if you had a question, you stand up and you ask a question, Vince was going to answer it. I never felt... When I came in as a ringmaster, frustration because I know I was in a box, but then I forced myself on the old man, walking across the parking lot one day going in Lowell, Massachusetts to Monday Night Raw TV taping, and I established a relationship. I've talked to some of those kids down there, and, whether you go to Vince or do you go to Triple H, who's really in charge? Well, Vince is really in charge, but Triple H is the guy that's managing all talent. So I think they need to have a meeting to establish an open lines of communication. Now, with probably, I don't know how many boys and girls they got over there, 100? How many they got in development? 50 or 100? Or how many travel on the roster? Not everybody's going to be able to get in the line and say, hey, I need 15 minutes of Vince's time. Just ain't going to happen. Back in the day, as Vince said on the Stone Cold podcast way back in the day, things were a little bit simpler, and they were, because we didn't have 100 writers. That was you, Ferrara, or however many people there were back in the time. Let me ask you a question, segueing, out of this, from a writing standpoint, 30 writers writing Raw. How can you have? I always talk with my buddy Court Bauer, and there's no. And we talked about this last time. I think there's just no interwoven storyline which carries through the course of a Monday Night Raw. Where a seed is planted at the beginning, or at the beginning of a Monday Night Raw and threaded through the entire show. It's just, match after match, segment, in-ring segment, or skit, whatever you want to call it, backstage promo. What would you do if you were going to take over the writing right now and you're going to command these 30 people?
Hey, Steve, I'll never forget. I back in 2002, when I was, close to going back, and when I left the WWE and at the end of 1999, it was just me and Ferrara. So I go back in 2002. Vince brings me in the writer's room. At that time, Steve, there were 20 writers in the room. So keep in mind, I went from me and Ferrara. Now I'm seeing 20 writers. My jaw hit the floor. And at the time, bro, the reason why I decided to go back was because the ratings dipped below a 3. And everything we had built all of a sudden had disappeared. So I'll never forget meeting with Vince, and this is 2002, Steve, and the ratings below a 3, and him saying to me, Vince, you have to understand, things aren't the way they were when you were here. We're a public company now. We have a board of directors, to answer to. It's different. And I remember turning to him, looking him in the eye and saying, I understand, Vince, but it's hurting the product. It's not making the product better, period. Bro, 14 years ago. Here we are, they are in that same structure, and they can continue to lose viewership. It's real simple, Steve. Simplize it. Go back to what worked. Steve, a lot of people don't understand, and people won't understand it unless you're in the seat. You're writing a live show every single week. It's constantly beat the clock, because day by day by day by day, you're running out of time. So, Steve, the more people you involve in that process, the more time is being wasted. You got to hear this guy's pitch and this guy's opinion and that guy's opinion. All of a sudden now, Steve, it's Tuesday, it's Wednesday, it's Friday. Guess what? By trying to work within this structure, and there's not enough time because you got a weekly show, here's what happens. I'll tell you exactly what happens. They run out of time. They run out of time because there's so many chefs in the kitchen. By the time they get to Raw, the TV is still being written. And at that point, Steve, what it is, all right, we got to get the show done. We have to get something on paper. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing something on paper compared to when it was Ferrara and myself. The show was over, tucked in bed by the time we left the office on Friday. Vince had looked at it. We had met with Vince. We knew what we were going to do. Now, maybe over the weekend, we looked at it a little bit more. Maybe on Monday, we wanted to tweak this or tweak that, but it was the show that we wrote. So basically, you've been going with a structure for the past 14 years that has never proven at any time to work. but yet you continue to go with that structure.
All right, Vince, need to stop you right there so I can take a minute to thank the great sponsors of the Steve Austin Show who let me do this podcast twice a week for free. And a big thank you to all my podcast listeners for supporting the sponsors, and that includes Weebly. Hey, if you're looking to create your own badass website, then you need to check out Weebly.com/Austin. Weebly makes it easy to create a professional quality website, blog, or online store. And Weebly has a variety of professional design, mobile-friendly themes to choose from. You just pick a theme, and then you drag and drop your content to build and publish your website. It really is that easy, and it's that fast. In fact, you can update and change your site anytime on any device. You can do it right from your phone. And I think that's the best part, because Weebly has an app that lets you update your site, add more content, and check your online store orders right from your phone no matter where you are. You don't need to be in no office or sitting in no computer to work on your website. With Weebly, you have instant access, so you can take care of business anytime you need to. Creating a fantastic website shouldn't get in the way of your dreams, and join the over 30 million people who are already dreaming big with Weebly. Get started today for free at Weebly.com/Austin. That's Weebly.com/Austin. Let me spell it out for you. WEEBLY.com/Austin. Weeds are like nature's boomerang, and Roundup knows they keep coming back. And with one spray of Roundup Max Control 365, kill those stubborn little rascals right down to the root and keep them away for up to a year. Draw the line and stop the weeds from boomeranging back. And this week I'm drawing the line at establishing a relationship with Vince McMahon. This is one of the best pieces of advice I can give any young up-and-comer at WWE. Force yourself over there to get in with the old man, or on Triple H, who's managing talent right now. You've got to establish a relationship with these guys. Communication. Don't be afraid to share your ideas and get their feedback. Vince McMahon is the man in charge, and I know that he's busy, and the roster's so large, it's not as easy to get 15 minutes one-on-one with him, but I know it was simpler in my day, but I still try to do that. Establishing a relationship is one of the best and smartest things you can do for your WWE career, and Roundup is drawing the line at weeds. Your patio should be for cooking out and kicking back. Roundup Max Control 365 helps keep it that way by keeping weeds away for up to 1 year. One spray of Roundup Max Control 365 gets you up to 365 days of weed-free relaxation time. Draw the line.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
I can imagine, whether there's bullet points or promos you guys are writing, and hell, I talked to you about it plenty of times. The boys were allowed to fill in the blanks, general idea. Y'all weren't sitting there writing a 1,000-page manifesto to be carried out on a Monday night 2-hour show, did you?
Nope. It was, like you said, Steve, it was the KISS principle. I got to throw a little bit of KISS in everything, Steve. You know that.
Right.
Keep it simple, stupid. It's that simple. Steve, you want to hear something amazing, and I swear to you, this is a true story. First of all, yeah, bro, when I watched the show, my gut feeling, why everything is scripted, why everybody is in a box, my gut feeling is Vince trusts nobody. He doesn't trust the talent. He doesn't trust the writers. He doesn't trust Stephanie. He doesn't trust the Triple H. He doesn't trust Shane. He doesn't trust anybody, and he doesn't have confidence in anybody. That's the feeling I get when I watch the show. Steve, I'm going back to 1999, and as we're rolling and rolling and rolling, Vince is like having me do more and more and more and more, and I could see him taking himself out of the process. And I'll never forget, Steve, in 99, he turned to me one day and he said, Vince, you don't understand. I don't want to be writing the show. I don't want to be involved in writing the show. That's why I'm, letting you do more and more. I don't want to do this. Bro, it's 17 years later and he's writing the show more than he ever did before.
Well, he is, because I've heard the same stories. He'll get everything turned into him, but then ultimately he's the one that goes and rewrites everything. The NXT crowd, to me, is different than the WWE main roster crowd. So you really have two different thought processes there, and Triple H is running things in NXT in a much simpler fashion, whether you like that or whether you don't. But it seems to really be catching on down there. But it's two different bases. But going back to the trust factor events, I remember in the match where I wrestled Bret Hart in WrestleMania 13 in Chicago. I was going to pass out in a pool of blood. And we go into the finish room, and that's all we get. Hey, Steve, you're gonna do the honors today, and you're gonna pass out in the sharpshooter. Didn't say anything about blood. That was to become later. And so, man, we listened to the orders from our leader, and I said, okay. And, of course, Bret was going over, and Bret was a great businessman and a guy I have a lot of respect for. And so we walked out of the room. And so my point is, me and Bret would go on to discuss, different parts of the match and a little bit of color. And I would cycle back into Vince's room and say, hey, Vince, are you sure about this finish? And he goes, God dang, Steve, I'm telling you, it'll work. I said, okay, good enough. So my point is, he gave us the directive, he gave us the finish, and he trusted us to go out there and execute everything. Nothing, no agent, nobody helped Bret and I with that match. We went out there, we had a little conversation. There was a fishbone of events. The rest was called on the fly, and we executed with extreme precision. Probably the only real double turn done in the history of WWE that I know of at that high of a level. Mm-hmm. And there was work on the back end for both of us, but it was trust. And so I didn't have to go out there and from A to Z remember a moveset to try to thrill, chill, and be a supercross extravaganza on a motorcycle, a stuntman or a daredevil to elicit emotion or get these people entrenched on what we were doing. As you know, that people were invested in our characters, the way my character was being taken from a heel to a baby, Bret from a baby to a heel, with work to be done on the back end. But people were so emotionally invested in that match. The struggle and the fight was real. And the bottom line, going back to leadership, Vince trusted us to go out there and do it, and we did. I feel for the guys, and I'm not going to be the grizzled veteran now, but these days they're so micromanaged that if you're talking about trust, Vince trusted us back then in 1996, 7, 8, whenever that was. These days, I don't see that trust.
Yeah. And Steve, I just, it pains me. I'm going to be honest with you here. It pains me that I've become the enemy saying what I'm saying. So now you have to ask yourself, why is Vince Russo saying what he's saying? Vince Russo is saying what he's saying because Vince Russo has loved wrestling since 1971. And Vince Russo knows in 1999, 10 million people were enjoying professional wrestling. The entire world was talking about professional wrestling. Somewhere along the line, we've lost 7 million people. Guess what? That pisses me off. That aggravates me because, hey, listen, shows like the Game of Thrones, shows like this, television shows are still drawing 15, 20 million people. There aren't 75% less people watching Monday Night Football or the NFL. So it pisses me off that we've lost an audience. So rather get pissed off at a Vince Russo because I'm not sitting here constantly putting you over. I'm not constantly putting you over because I care. We've gone from 10 million to 3 million. Okay, what's next? 2 million? Then what? Then 1 million? Then what do we do? They need to listen to the people that were there when it was successful and know why it was successful, what worked and what didn't work. They're too close to it, but they're too cocky and ignorant to listen to anybody else. That's my opinion.
Okay, do you see any solution in trying to rope these fans back in? The many that have cut the cord and moved on either to MMA or just don't watch anymore? And I'm not going to play the part of the grizzled vet, but I mean, I've had a lot of people tell me, man, when you and The Rock or when you left, man, I just stopped watching. And so that's not just because Stone Cold and The Rock left. It's that the vibe and the business changed. Can you bring those people back, or can, in the current platform or a change or tweak of the platform, start building a new audience to take the place of the 7 or so or whatever that you lost?
Steve, I think, and I say this all the time, you have to go back to the very foundation and build up. The problem is the foundation has been changed. That's the problem. What we're watching today is not what those 7 million people that went away consider professional wrestling. Again, bro, it's where we started this interview. Compelling characters put in compelling and intriguing storylines that leads and escalates to a fight where two guys are trying to win and we believe it's real. Those are the three basic fundamentals of wrestling to the very first day that you and I saw our first wrestling show. Once you break down that foundation, well, now you've got a totally different animal. What they have now is a totally different animal. I would go back to the very basics of that foundation. Once the foundation is put back in place, then start building up on it once again. Without the foundation, in my opinion, you've got nothing.
And I believe that people can, I don't want to say be retrained, but I think they can be adjusted or educated. I don't want to say this too many times because I've said it before. You know, the WWE Universe, they're their own world. They can do whatever they want to. So, man, I don't know. Everything's so slick now. I would just present it as more of a competitive endeavor, make it seem like a shoot. I mean, we know the business is at work, but present it as a shoot. I mean, if Seth Rollins curb stomps somebody, fine him $15,000. Hey, maybe the money's not going to really change hands, but it's the fact that you have a set of rules, guidelines, presentation. And you can have you can have all the high production values you want. Yeah, that's great, but just present it in a competitive atmosphere, and so that your storylines reflect that reality. I mean, because the UFC is doing pro wrestling better than WWE is doing pro wrestling. So, and invest some money in your characters, raise the stakes a little bit, shoot a little higher, because to me, there's a lot of funny, cute stuff on, and there's a time and a place for some funny, cute stuff, but you know the old saying, funny ain't money. And if you have a funny spot or two in a 3-hour show, dare 2-hour show, or one spot on a card, that's fine and dandy. But if that's the bulk of what you're trying to do, and the basis is not hard-fought, hardly contested matches where there's a sense of urgency to win, your formula's wrong.
Yeah, and Steve, listen, everybody's smart to the business today. People have been smart to the business for years. We're all smart to it. Bro, I would love to see them start getting into, the business of the business. Let's get into the realities of the wrestling business. The pay scale. Why does wrestler A get paid more than wrestler B? If I'm Damian Sandow, why are you putting me in a box? Why are not you giving me the opportunity to succeed? If I'm Adam Rose and you say I fail my wellness test and I've got a doctor's note and you knew all along I would, why isn't that the story? Why isn't that the story? Bring the reality of the wrestling business. It's 2016, bro. Steve, here's what it is. They're afraid of uncharted territories. They're afraid of what that might do. You've lost 7 million people. At what point do you not become afraid of the unknown? You keep going back to your comfort zone, and you're losing people along the way because Steve, you did it. In order to get to that next level, there has to be some gambling, and there has to be some changes, and there has to be a rolling of the dice. You keep performing in safe mode, when you have shows like Game of Thrones and things like this competing against you, and television becomes more and more sophisticated. Guess what, bro? You look like a Saturday morning cartoon, but you got to have the balls to go out and try it.
Well, I mean, when you talk about the reality of it and realistic situations, and why not play upon them or bring them as a part of the broadcast, They call it the reality era, but it's anything but reality. And on the other note, going into unknown territory or uncharted waters, back in the day, man, Vince, whether you're a fan or not of some of the storylines or angles we were shooting, they were edgy as hell, and we weren't afraid to push into those uncharted waters or territories. And if you're afraid to do that, if you're afraid to try to grow, if you're afraid to take a chance as a company, whether you're publicly traded or not, then you're failing to live up to your potential as a company. I mean, because that's what entertainment business is. If wrestling falls under the entertainment umbrella, people push the envelope. Look at Muhammad Ali. He pushed the envelope. Look how famous he got. I mean, he transcended the sport of boxing, a global, worldwide figure, because he pushed the envelope and wasn't afraid to speak his mind. The WWE, and then just take Ali out of the equation, who was an all-time great, who recently passed. But, dude, you just can't be afraid as a company to try to push the envelope. You can't play in a safe zone.
But Steve, we have to be honest. And listen, bro, it's nothing personal. It's the cold, harsh truth. Bro, I am 55. When we were doing the Attitude Era, I was 35. Okay, so Steve, 20 years later, I think a lot more differently today than I did back then. Steve, I can't imagine where I'm going to be at 15 years from now when I'm 70 years old. Steve, you're talking about a 70-year-old man pushing the envelope. Bro, when I'm 70, I want to be sitting in my easy chair watching All in the Family reruns all day. That's all I want to do, bro. I don't want to do nothing else. You're 70. Bro, he has no idea of what that envelope is, what edginess. Bro, you think Vince McMahon watched Game of Thrones or Vince McMahon watched Breaking? He has no idea, bro. But yet this is the man that still runs the ship. That's just life, man. That's just the way it is. But until that changes, there's going to be no rolling the dice. There's going to be no reality era. There's going to be the same old, same old.
Dude, here's the thing. I'm 51. I don't watch Monday Night Raw anymore. I'm just too busy. It's a 3-hour show. I watch the pay-per-views so I can talk about the matches, but I'm out of touch with the wrestling business.
Absolutely, right. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Where you're 51, I'm 55, there's nothing wrong with that.
But sometimes you're so far in the forest you can't see the trees. Yep. And Vince has been leading this charge for so long that, maybe he's immune, or he just sees things one way, that's his way, and that's it. And he's always been one back in the day that would listen to, a suggestion or whatever. I don't know. That format of Monday Night Raw hasn't changed in how many years?
Yeah.
Why not change it up?
Yeah. And again, Steve, it's like I say this all the time because I'm so tired of the excuses. Like, I'm really tired. And I'm tired of the excuses because of something Vince McMahon said to me. And it's as simple as this, bro, going head to head, with Nitro, going head to head with NBA playoffs and, the college, the NCAA final, going head to head with these things. I'll never forget Vince's exact words to me. He said to me, Vince, if it's good, they'll watch it. Period. I don't care what's on the other channel. I don't care what the competition is. If it's good, they'll watch it. When you see 600,000 people tune off your show, they're not watching it because it's not good. At that point, you have to stop yourself and say, and Steve, I always get the excuse how much money they're making, and they're making more money than ever, and the network and this and that. Bro, listen, they better be making more money than ever. They're the only game in town. They have a monopoly. So, that's a no-brainer. I'm not questioning that they're not making money, but my argument is, how much could they be making if it were good? How much could the boys be making if it was the best that it could be? That's my argument.
All right, I'm sitting here on Skype talking about the business of pro wrestling with Vince Russo. He's got his own podcast at PodcastOne. It's Vince Russo's The Brand, and he releases new episodes every weekday. Check it out. And Vince, we're going to continue this conversation about the state of pro wrestling today after I talk about one sponsor that I don't podcast without, Onnit. The fine folks at Onnit make Alpha Brain, and y'all know that I always take a couple of Alpha Brain and a few swigs of coffee before I start any podcast. Alpha Brain keeps me on my A game. I'm sharp and focused, and I'm able to conduct badass interviews and remember all sorts of details about my own pro wrestling career. And if you want to be on top of your game, then get yourself some Alpha Brain at onnit.com/Steve. And if you do, you will save 10% off your order. You can get 10% off anything you order at onnit.com/Steve, including Shroom Tech Sport and T+. Shroom Tech Sport will give your workout a boost. It will help you go longer and recover faster. It's made with natural ingredients and ain't loaded up with artificial stimulants. So go take advantage of this 10% discount off your order. Just go to onnit.com/Steve. And another great thing about Onnit and all their products is if they don't work the way they're supposed to, you can get all your money back, no questions asked. Money back guarantee. So go to onnit.com/Steve to get your 10% discount off all supplements. That's onnit.com/Steve to get 10% off your order. All right, let's get back to my conversation with Vince Russo. This whole conversation, and it's broken into two podcasts, but I mean, the whole conversation is not an indictment on the boys. The boys are following orders. They're following the rules. That's just the way it's always worked. At different times through the years, you had more leeway to give your opinion or maybe in the moment, on the fly, change that decision because in your guts you felt that was the thing to do, and then you had a conversation with the booker, and you either kept your job or you were fired. Today's system, it is a monopoly. There's only one game in town. Truly, there's only one game in actually the world, because unless you want to go to New Japan, all due respects to both those companies, I was fortunate enough to spend my entire career in the United States of America. I had a few trips to Japan, which I loved, and I got a lot of respect for the Gordy, Brody, Hansen, the Funk's run over there, and they had a good run over here. But I got many fond memories of that. But so I'm not knocking those companies. But if you're in today's system, you want to be working for the WWF if you want to make as good a living as you can. And as much as you're going to be on the road, you're not going a couple thousand miles away to Japan to work. You're here in the United States. So it's going to be real tough or a real interesting ride to see who the next true breakout star who's going to really get on top of that roster by what they do inside the ring and on the mic, whereas Roman Reigns is there now. How long will he stay? Well, he's the chosen one from Vince. But it's going to be interesting to see who and why or if another guy will ever emerge that takes over the whole business like a few of us did back in the day and run roughshod with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, Steve, again, it's not on the boys, but no. I say this all the time, though, bro, because, and again, I use you as an example. Of course, the odds were better in your favor back then than they are with the boys today. But, bro, listen, I say this all the time. If you are a performer and you are creative and you know what's inside and what you're not allowed to let come out, and you're better than the role they're giving you. Listen, here's where that performer is eventually going to get. If you don't speak up because you're afraid of losing your spot or losing your job, that's exactly why you're not speaking up. That's the only reason why you're not speaking up. But if you don't speak up, here's what's going to come. What's going to come is frustration. What's going to come is your passion is now going to become a job. Because now you're going to work, you're getting orders, whether you agree with those orders or not. You have to go out and do it every day, whether you believe in them or not. My point is, you're going to be miserable, and eventually you're going to leave anyway That's eventually what's going to happen, either on your terms or on their terms. So my point is, if you have the confidence in yourself and you truly believe you're that good, you have to roll the dice and you have to speak up. Otherwise, you're just going to become one of many. That's just my opinion.
Again, I would frame this, our whole conversation up as reliving some old times from the first episode we did, and now talking about the current situation. And maybe we are two grizzled veterans, but it wasn't, I don't think we're trying to make an indictment on the system. It was two guys who come from back then talking about where we are in our heads about what's going on and just our thoughts. So I don't want to come across as someone who's complaining about the business, because I don't really follow it a whole lot. And I watch the pay-per-views, but obviously, with the ratings dipping as they have, there are some issues to be addressed.
Yeah, and like I said, Steve, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And my passion comes from the love of the business. Yeah, I said it the last time I was on this show. I just want wrestling to be great again. That's all. I remember era after era, decade after decade, where it was absolutely great. I don't feel that same way about it today, and I don't think it's just me. I think there are a lot of, traditional diehard wrestling fans who don't feel the same way. I just wanted to go back to the foundation of what it stood for so we can get the world watching again. That's my goal. That's all it is, period.
But I think back then we were booking the territory or writing the shows from a standpoint of, we're a big-ass, badass dog, junkyard dog, and we're wagging the tail. Mm-hmm. These days it seems like the tail wags the dog.
Yeah.
And I just think it's almost like the crowds are working the boys rather than us working the crowds, which we did. I mean, we were talking about this the other day on the phone. How did you say that?
Bro, Steve, that's another 2-hour conversation. Again, go back to any show, in the Attitude Era. The crowd is in the palm of your hand. You are pulling the strings of the crowd. Cheer here, boo here, say nugget here. We own the crowd. Today, the crowd is dictating direction to I never thought, Steve, I would see that in my lifetime. I never thought. You talk about the tail wagging the door. I never thought. Bro, it got so bad a couple of months ago. Vince was on the stage cutting a promo, and the crowd was rattling Vince. I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd ever see that, Steve, ever.
But you got to take that back. You dictate to the crowd, and they want to be dictated to, because they take over now. But believe me, it's crowd psychology, it's ring psychology, it's promo psychology. It's easy to take that control back, and dare I say, I think the crowd wants it to be taken back. But they're having fun. If they're having fun, they're kind of running a show, but they're not getting the best entertainment that they can get from a wrestling standpoint. And that's just says, I can never tell a crowd what to do, but they're the tail wagging the dog because they can.
They can, but that's exactly it, Steve. I believe, too, like you, the right guy cutting the right promos can get the crowd back, but nobody's doing it. That's what blows my mind. Every week they play into it. They give them more power, more control, and they're not attempting to take the crowd back, which blows my mind.
Hey, let's wrap this podcast up, Vince. It's been an absolute blast talking to you. And again, Vince Russo's The Brand is on PodcastOne. It's on iTunes. You can download these episodes for free. There's a paywall up that's for the past episodes. Vince's show, along with my show, all the shows on PodcastOne continue to be free. It's just the archive episodes that you have to pay to get to. But once you pay that money, you can archive any show off the PodcastOne platform. And the reason reason that was done was because of bandwidth and storage. So, and I get tweets all the time. I'm sure, Vince, you probably got some tweets. And, back in the day, you were on a pay platform just to begin with, and now you're with PodcastOne, so the shows are for free. But that wasn't a Vince call. It wasn't a Steve call. It's a storage and a bandwidth expense cost. So our shows will always be free. Vince, you've been busting your ass doing your shows 5 days a week. It's the brand. You're talking about Attitude Era stuff, all the stuff that you love to talk about. You've been staying busy, so nothing really has changed for you, but you're just under the PodcastOne banner now. Are you having fun with what you're doing? Are you enjoying the process?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, Steve. I mean, I've been podcasting now for about 2 years. My goal is always PodcastOne. Again, with the help of being on your shows, I mean, that came to fruition. So, yeah, man, I'm on there 5 days a week. Steve, can I ask you one quick question before you wrap up? Okay, bro. And listen, can you be totally honest with me on this one?
What the question is?
How long have you been podcasting?
Oh, man, I don't know, 2 or 3 years.
All right, Steve, I got to ask you this question, man to man. Now, Steve, I know a lot of times you go into the studio, but a lot of times you're also doing your podcast, either from your ranch or, right? I mean, like in the comfort of your own home, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Steve, I don't know how it is with your wife. Okay, but does your wife fall under which I think the category all women fall under, that if you're working from home, you're not working? Like my wife believes that, bro, I do podcasts 5 days a week, Steve. I spend hours. I get up 6 in the morning, 12 at night, podcasting. Meanwhile, every day there's the dirty dishes are loaded up to the state of Washington. I'm expected to wash the dishes every single day and keep the house clean because in her mind, because I'm working from home, I'm not working. Now, does the great Stone Cold Steve Austin go through this?
No, and I think it's because your wife works, right? So she's out of the house?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's where the whole thing is. The thing is, with my wife, and we've been together 12 years, and I was already kind of retired from the business, but I've never had a normal job because I got into the business of pro wrestling since in 1989. So that it's when she hooked up with me, she just sees that this is my lifestyle. If I'm not hosting a show on CMT or doing my podcast or doing some type of project, I'm here at the house, and she knows when I do a podcast, I'm working my ass off. I'm prepping. I'm doing the best I can. Sometimes I hit a single. Sometimes I'll strike out. Sometimes I hit a grand slam. But it's work putting on a podcast, and especially with the kind of information that you bring. A lot of my stuff is just a freestyle type platform, and you're fact based. You have the capability to remember all those badass details. But no, my wife knows that when I sit down to do a podcast, or if Sunday, Monday's rolling around, I'm under a timeline. I've got to turn in that show for Tuesday by Monday night, and I start stressing, and I've got to come up with something so she knows it's work. And so if she happens to catch the back 5 minutes of this show, Miss Russo, it is indeed work. I don't care whether I prefer to work from the house rather than to drive to Beverly Hills to the studio. I have everything I need. My bathroom's right here. I got coffee right over there. I got the dogs here. Sometimes there's noise, there's discombobulations, but I can get more accomplished by staying here than trying to drive 20 miles to Beverly Hills to get into a studio, get set up, get comfortable, and then get in traffic to come back home. So, I'm like you, and I told people this a couple of podcasts ago. I'm a global icon and a national treasure and the baddest SOB to ever step foot in a WWE ring. But my job, the breakfast dishes and the dinner dishes, those are on me. And I cook all my meals throughout the day. So I do dishes, and so whether you do them or not, or we wait till she gets back, dude, you're working your ass off. You're sitting in front of a microphone, and now you're an entertainer or you're an informer, but people derive entertainment from downloading your podcast and listen to it at work, going to work, or coming from work. So it's a whole different ball game than the guy out there digging a ditch, and I've dug a bunch of them, but you're working your ass off, bottom line.
Well, Steve, I'm going to play that back for my wife, but just so you know, because I know you never get edited. We didn't even edit you during the Attitude Era. I am going to edit the part about you saying that you do the breakfast and the lunch dishes. She doesn't need to hear that. All right? So I'm telling you straight up, that's getting edited right out.
All right, that's cool. And on that note, Vince, back in the day when I was out on the road wrestling, some people think, oh, man, you're at all these cool places. That must be fun. You were there because you're on the road for the Raws and all the other stuff you're on. It's like, oh, man, well, he's in so-and-so this week. He's in this place this week. Oh, that's cool. Hey, no. Yeah, on one hand, it's cool for about the first year you're in the business, and then all of a sudden it's W-O-R-K. It's a four-letter word. Now, you're having fun, but it's a grind.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden they think, since you're getting to see the world, that it must be all fun and games. It ain't. It's work.
No, absolutely. Especially the time we had to spend in the building on the days of a show. People have no idea. Steve, I think they think like the wrestlers show up at 8 o'clock. The show's on at 9. They have no idea what those days are like on live TV.
Man, yeah, I'll go into. You know what? Let's talk again in a couple of weeks because the shenanigans at the building, the waiting process is a whole nother podcast. Just like the idea that you brought up is a whole nother podcast. So let's save it, and I'll tell you what. Let's in a couple of weeks, if you're up for it, I'll come back on your show. But it's been good. I appreciate you giving me 2 episodes and spreading the word, spreading the love about Vince Russo's The Brand. You can listen to him 5 days a week on PodcastOne. It's always fun to connect with you, and it's always fun to talk with you. The good thing about talking with Vince is he's got a great studio set up there at his house, so he's got a great Skype connection. So the conversation happens so freely between us because, first of all, we have a great chemistry, but also we're watching each other through this. And as you know, Vince, you do some great interviews over the phone, but sometimes a Skype audio thing without the sound can discombobulate you. If you speak at the same time, it interferes with what's going on from a sound level. So it's been great to talk to you because it's almost just like talking to each other in person.
Oh, yes, Steve. And again, man, I can't thank you enough of everything you've done for me. Again, putting me on your podcast, got me to where I really wanted to go with PodcastOne, and I will forever be indebted to you for that.
I do. We're board buds from way back. I appreciate you coming on the show, and good luck to you on The Brand.
Thanks, man.
Hey, I got one more thing to tell you before we wrap up his podcast. The Resurrection of Jake the Snake documentary is finally out on DVD and Blu-ray. Now, this is the inspirational story about how Jake the Snake turned his life around with the help of Diamond Dallas Page and DDP Yoga. And even if you have seen the documentary at one of the screenings that Dallas hosted last fall, you should still get the DVD because Dallas and his crew put a ton of extras into the DVD. There are over 20 bonus features, including commentary by Dallas, Jake Roberts, and director Steve Yu. I've seen this documentary a few times now, and it gets me every single time. It's a great documentary. It's one of the best I've ever seen, and it's an incredible story. And if you haven't seen it, you need to. And this is not a quote-unquote wrestling documentary. This is one man's journey to turn his life around, reconnect with his family, and restart his legendary career. And right now, you can get the collector's edition of The Resurrection of Jake the Snake at ddpyoga.com/Austin and get 10% off anything you buy for a limited time. So get the documentary and get inspired. And then get yourself on the DDP Yoga program and do all that for 10% off by going to ddpyoga.com/Austin. As Dallas always says, all you got to do is commit. And when you see what that commitment did for Jake the Snake, you'll want to commit too. Start living a healthier life today. Go to ddpyoga.com/Austin for a limited time. Get 10% off anything you buy. All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up his podcast and ride off into the sunset and get ready for my podcast with AJ Styles over there in Phoenix, Arizona. But before I ride off in the sunset, I got to give you guys something to listen to or watch. So my pick of the week is going to be an audio pick, and it's Vince Russo's The Brand podcast. He does 5 episodes a week, and you can find them all at PodcastOne.com or iTunes. He talks to some of the legends in the business. He breaks down Raw episodes from the Attitude Era, and he rants about stuff going on in his life and in today's pro wrestling world. So get your fix with Vince Russo's The Brand every weekday at PodcastOne.com. Hey, gang, I got all my badass T-shirts I've been wearing on Broken Skull Challenge, the toughest show on television, at BrokenSkullRanch.com. I got Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing at Whole Foods Total Wine here in California. And if you want to order it online, all you got to do is go to BrokenSkullRanch.com and you'll see the link for InsideTheCellar.com. Broken Skull, Steve Austin pocket knife from Cold Steel Knives. There's a link there at the bottom of the website. Everybody needs a knife. I don't care whether you're opening your envelopes, cutting up boxes for trash, or having to defend your life. Everybody should have a knife. And the Steve Austin Broken Skull knife is a knife that you can use every single day as an everyday carry. It's extremely high quality. All parts are made in the USA. It is assembled in Taiwan, but that whole knife says USA all over it. That's a badass knife, and that's the bottom line. And right now, I want to say, hey, thank you guys for all the word-of-mouth advertising you guys have been doing on behalf of this podcast. We ain't got no advertising budget up in here, and I appreciate you guys supporting the sponsor of the Steve Austin podcast because they're the ones who let me do this for you free twice a week. So big thanks to Dollar Shave Club. Sign up at dollarshaveclub.com/Steve and get a free month of the Executive Razor when you buy a tube of Dr. Carver Shave Butter. To the folks at Onnit, go to onnit.com/Steve to get 10% off your order. To ddpyoga.com/Austin. Get 10% off anything you buy for a limited time only, including the collector's edition DVD and Blu-ray of the Resurrection of Jake the Snake documentary. To Weebly. Get started on your badass website for free at weebly.com/Austin. To Scott's Roundup. And, of course, big thank you to Amazon, who've been supporting this podcast since day one. Use my Amazon links whenever you're doing any online shopping, and Amazon will kick back a few bucks to the podcast. It doesn't cost you anything extra. There's no hidden fees or charges. Just buy whatever you plan on buying and help out the podcast in the process. And if you want to help this show out, help us keep these 2 free shows going every single week, go find my Amazon links by going to PodcastOne.com. Click on the Killer Deals button in the top right-hand corner of the page, and then hit the Steve Austin Show button. I got Amazon links for the USA, for UK, and Canada. PodcastOne.com. Click the Killer Deal button in the top right-hand corner. Click the Steve Austin Show, and that's where, if you bookmark it, you can find it in one click and help a brother out. Hey, folks, keep listening. The 60-second AP News headlines are coming up next. Until next Thursday, I'm coming back with Bill Goldberg. My name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.